Do you want to know what the absolute worst source of negative input is? Negative information? I mean, think about it. We're bombarded with it constantly. It's coming in. It's on your cell phone all the time. It's on television all the time. It's on your laptop. It's on the computer. It's bombarding us all the time. We can't escape it. But you know what? That stuff is being put out for a reason, and it is being put out to program us. But you know what the worst of it is? It's that you get from yourself. That's right. It's the input that we give to ourselves that is the most damaging. And it never stops. I mean, when you think about it, you never stop talking. Even when you're asleep, it's yak, 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 yak. Something that I call the internal dialogue from hell. And so the trick to life, if you want to go further faster, if you want to have a more fulfilled life, if you want to be wealthy, as I say, healthier, happier, and more financially abundant, mitigate your own self-talk. Mitigate the negativity that comes in from you. And you might say to yourself, well, Joseph, it had to be put in there somewhere. And yeah, it did. But here's the worst part about it. Here's the worst part about our own self-talk, because we hear things all over the place. And there's a saying that we have in psychology, in the neuroscience, and that is, if I tell you something, you might believe it, depending on how persuasive I am or how convincing I am. You might believe it, but if you tell you, you will believe it. Because here's the worst part. It's not only do we have negative input coming in, but it's constant over and over to the point that it becomes unconscious. What does that mean? There are things that you've said about yourself. There are stories that you've said. Maybe somebody said something to you. Maybe you had an experience when you were younger. Somebody teased you, or you got embarrassed, or whatever. But you kept repeating it over and over inside your head. And what happens is anything that a human being repeats over and over again will become a belief. Technically saying, it just goes into your unconscious mind. Look, there's things that you've memorized. There's songs that you've memorized. There's poems that you've memorized. Lots of stuff that you memorized. How did you memorize it? You memorized it by doing it and saying it over and over and over again. Well, the brain works the same way. And I'm going to tell you this, achievers and people that are looking to create more wealth in their lives and have better lives and do more than the average person, they're the worst. I know, because I used to live that as well. And what that means is we beat ourselves up all the time. And that's just what we know. That's the conscious part. But think about this. Think about how many things, as a matter of fact, people say this, okay, it's all mindset. It's mindset that makes the biggest difference. Well, that may be very, very well true. However, I think that mindset, just my personal belief is, mindset it indicates that there's a certain set of thoughts, that your mind is set in a certain way, and that's what it thinks. And that's true. You might have but it's a set of thoughts about a specific thing, about money, or about your own health, or about something. But there's something deeper than that. It's like what supports the mindset is something called psychology. And it's that psychology that, unfortunately, achievers have some of the crappiest psychology. I got to tell you, I've had the privilege of working with all kinds of people all over the world for over 3 decades now. And achievers, and I say achievers, those are people, like I said, that want more, that are looking to have more, that are looking to create more, better wealth and better lifestyles and so on and so forth. And they're driven, and they feel like, I got to achieve this, I got to achieve that. And they don't feel happy unless they're achieving something, unless they're going after something. But here's the deal. Even when they succeed, even when they get what they want, they still beat themselves up. I should have done it better, faster. I should have done it like this other person, or this other person's younger than me and they're better off than me. I should be this and everything. And they're beating themselves up. That is negative stuff. And it never stops. It's over and over and over again. And that's the worst part about it, because that's your voice saying it to you and you believe you. And there's a whole host of things that happen. There's a cascading effect. There's a global effect that it has on your whole life. I always go back to, we want to be wealthy. Wealthy means healthy, happy, and financial abundance. So let's look at it. If you've got negative thoughts, if you've got self-talk that's coming in constantly over and over to the point that you don't even hear it anymore, that it's unconscious, it's affecting your health. It's affecting your health. Listen, 1 minute of a negative thought floods your body with something called cortisol, which is acid, which is the fight or flight, what we call our sympathetic nervous system. It is that substance that goes through our system that is so damaging, but it doesn't just make us feel bad and make us feel fearful and things like that. It damages your entire immune system for like 15, 20 minutes, even an hour. So when you get upset, when that's going on in your mind, know this, that your body is being flooded with the things that are causing you to be less healthy. Not to mention that when we have cortisol in your system, what happens is it's called, like I said, cortisol triggers us to go into fight or flight. That's called your sympathetic nervous system. And when that happens, everything is on alert. Well, how long do you think you can stay on alert without getting worn out? Very little time. You see, when the animal is in the wild, let's say it's a gazelle or an antelope or something, and the tiger shows up, or the lion shows up that's going to eat it. All of a sudden, cortisol gets released in the system, adrenaline jumps in, and all of a sudden that animal goes, I got to get the hell up out of here, otherwise I'm going to be toast. And so guess what it does? It runs. Very few deer stand and fight, but it's fight or flight. And so it runs, it takes off. But how long do you think it can continue to run? Not very long at all. As a matter of fact, it's only a few seconds before it's fight or flight, before that animal knows it's going to die or not. It can't continue to do that. Well, human beings are the same way. Only the tiger never goes away. And by the way, when the tiger shows up and the animal runs, within a matter of seconds, 60 seconds or so, that animal is either going to get away or it's going to get killed. Either way, situation over with. I know it's a little bit more, but situation over with. Either way, the tiger goes away or the animal gets eaten. Fortunately, hopefully the animal gets away and the tiger goes away. Well, check this out. With human beings, the tiger never goes away. It's called low-level stress. Low-level stress means that whatever is bothering us, whatever we're worried about, whatever we're saying about ourselves, we do it over and over again. It's like the tiger hiding behind the bush, but you know he's behind the bush, ready to eat you. So guess what? It's drip, drip, drip of cortisol. And guess what? You can't sustain that. So not only does your immune system, because remember, all of the energy goes from your immune system over to cortisol release and keeping you safe or making you feel like you need to feel safe. And guess what happens? You start to burn out. Your immune system is down, but then guess what else is down? Your energy level is down. Why? Because just like the gazelle or the deer, it cannot keep on running like that. But human beings, here's what we do. Well, let me get some more coffee inside me. Let me get some more sugar inside me. Let me do all this stuff. And we get a false sense of energy, but it's going to go away. And when it does, guess what goes along with it? Self-esteem, happiness, joy, all of those things go along with it. It is one of the reasons why depression and anxiety is so high in this world right now. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you live like the masses, you are going to suffer and die like the masses as well. And the masses are suffering from so many preventable diseases and so on and so forth right now that it's crazy. But you think about this. What do the masses do? I know I'm going down this rabbit hole for a second, but I want you to stay with me because always whenever I yak at you about something, I always have a solution tied to it as well. And the whole thing about this is let's learn to mitigate that negative talk. Let's learn to mitigate the conversations that we have with ourselves that are harming us in those ways that I'm telling you about. And so when I look at the general public, if you will, and a lot of people come to me and Joseph say, I'm tired, and by the way, like I said, they get prescribed different types of drugs for depression. They get prescribed different types of drugs for anxiety. They're drinking the coffee, they're eating the sugar, they're doing all the things that keep them up for a moment, but it's like adding high octane fuel. It's like adding race car fuel into a regular engine. It's going to burn out. It's going to blow up at some point. And so what happens is what we as human beings, and most people don't know that it's there. We get up in the morning and I don't know, because I've done this before. I'm sure you have as well. You wake up in the morning and it's just all of a sudden, okay, what do I got today? Oh yeah, there's this. And then all of a sudden it starts. And you start remembering and thinking about all the negative things and all these things that are coming into our minds. And guess what it does? It's that downward spiral. Let me get some coffee. Listen, there's no reason on earth that you should sleep 8 to 10 hours and wake up tired. But most people do. And I'm telling you, It's not just the diet that we have. It's the thoughts that we have. It's always, 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 not some of the time, not most of the time, but all of the time. It is top down. Think, feel, do, have. That's it. Thinking is just the images and the words that you're saying to yourself. And today's conversation are the words that we're saying to ourselves. And you never shut up. Now, if you're unconscious to the stuff that's going on, and have you ever just felt bad or frustrated or anxious about something, but you don't know why? It's because that stuff is buried. Now, could we go dig deep and go, okay, well, let's find out exactly what these conversations are and what they are, and let's take each one of them, dismantle them piece by piece? The answer is yes. I see it all the time. Traditional psychology, that's what they do. Okay, well, what do you have this thought about this? What do you have this thought about that? But I want to share with you that you can actually affect all of them, have a global processional effect on all of them by just doing a couple simple things. By learning how to mitigate, and mitigate meaning making smaller, eliminate, if you will, the negative thoughts. Now, having said that, I also want you to know, contrary to popular belief, I'm human. And what that means is that not only have I been through this stuff, and I made a video a little while ago about I don't teach theory. I don't teach something that I haven't done myself and that I haven't experienced myself, and more specifically, that I haven't taught other people as well to get results. And so I'm human and I still go through it. I still go through it from time to time. But if you heard me say this before once, then you're going to hear me say it 1,000 other times, and that is, there are no fearless people. None. And by the way, worry and doubt and uncertainty and all those things, it's just different forms of fear. There are no fearless people. However, there are people that fear less. Let me repeat myself. There are no fearless people, but there are people that feel less. And when I say that, most people go, okay, well, you don't have this to worry about. You don't have that to worry about. I got more stuff to worry about than most people if I allowed myself to do it. I'm not talking about the quantity of the types of things that people could fear. I'm talking about the time that they spend there. So a person that fears less, they may even have the same experiences that you do, the same excuses, the same bad things that are happening to them as you do, the same things to worry about as you do. But guess what? They don't spend a lot of time there. It shows up and they have a default that says, okay, wait a minute. This isn't real, or the conversation that goes on in their head in that moment that takes care of them and makes the fear go down. And again, when I say fear, all I mean is the emotion that is produced when you put your focus and your words on the worst case scenario versus the best. Worry is fear. You're worried that you're not going to be able to pay your bills. All you're doing is projecting the future by putting the worst case scenario on the future. Instead of going, okay, well, wait a minute. I've paid my bills all the way up until now, or if something happens, I can find another way, or whatever. All the time when there's fear happening, drip, 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 or flood, flood, flood of cortisol that makes us feel bad. So what do we do about it? What do we do about it? What do we do about learning how to mitigate our thoughts? First off, I want you to look at it like this. I want you to use this image, if you will. There is a line right down the middle. On one side, it's negative. On the other side, it's positive. Right there in the middle, some might say neutral. I say it's one or the other. You may feel a little bit positive or a little bit good or euphoric. You might feel a little bit bad or depressed and anxious and suicidal. That range in between there does exist, but you got to choose a side, one side or the other. And I'm just saying, let's choose the positive side. And even if you go inch by inch or foot by foot or yard by yard or meter by meter, whatever, the further you get on this side, the more you tend to stay on that side. That's how you program yourself. And so what you want to do is this. There's two things. Number one, actually three things. Number one, experience it. That's right. I'm telling you, feel bad. I'm telling you to feel fearful. Now, this is counterintuitive because most people say, well, why do I want to do that? Traditional therapy, you come lay on my couch and we talk about something else. We talk a little bit about that, but I don't want you to feel that. That's what traditional therapy does. No, I say feel it. If you come into my office and you got a fear of dogs, there's going to be a dog there. You come into my office, you want to be, you want to get over a fear of heights, we're going to go to the top of the building, or we're going to go skydiving. Why? Step number 1, feel it. Bring it out in the open. Step number 2, interrupt that pattern. I'm going to tell you how specifically to do this, how to mitigate your thoughts here in a moment. But this is the pattern. This is the process. Step number 2, you got to interrupt that pattern. You may have heard me talk about it before. In the moment, when you're thinking something, you have a pattern of thought. Remember, it's think, feel, do. Whatever you think will cause you to feel a certain way. Whatever you feel will cause you to do something. So when you feel it, when you think it, you're going to go into that fear for a moment. And then you got to do something to interrupt that pattern. You got to do something to take you out of it. And all you got to do is stand up. All you got to do is shake yourself out or something like that. Because in that instant, 3 things happen. Number 1, you're no longer in that negative state. And in number 2, your brain releases dopamine. Your brain releases something that cancels everything out. Proof of it is you won't be able to remember. You've done that before. You've been thinking about something and all of a sudden you stand up, you go do something. What was I thinking about? What was I doing? That's it at work. But the third thing, which is the greatest thing, is it creates a vacuum inside your head. That's why you can't remember stuff. It creates a scotoma inside your head, and that scotoma is a vacuum, and it wants to be given something. Step number 4, just smile and breathe. Why? Because as soon as you smile and breathe, that's what goes into that space. You see, that vacuum does like every natural thing on the earth. When it's in a vacuum, it wants to fill it up. So it's feel bad, interrupt that pattern, feel good, and then celebrate. Okay? Let me repeat myself. Feel bad, interrupt the pattern, feel good, celebrate. Those are the 4 steps that you're going to do. Now, here's what you're going to do. Is that and by the way, don't wait. Cause yourself to feel bad. I want you to sit down and write down some of the negative thoughts that you have about yourself. Some of the things that you've said about yourself. Some of the things that you feel bad about. And when you write it down, I want you to think about it. I want you to experience it in that moment. And as soon as you feel it in that moment, I just want you to go, okay, wait a minute. Let me stand up, shake myself out, and then just put a smile on your face. See, you're going to feel bad on purpose. When you feel bad, as soon as you feel it, don't wait for it. Don't wait for it to get a big monster. I'm talking milliseconds sometimes. As soon as it comes in, you go, wait a minute, let me shake myself out. Stand up and put a smile on your face. As soon as you smile, your brain releases dopamine, which makes you feel good. And then your brain says, what just happened? Oh, I interrupted my pattern from this crap that I was saying about myself. And so you filled that up with a big smile and the dopamine. And then your brain and then by the way, you celebrate, you pat yourself on your back, and your brain goes, oh, wait a minute, what just happened? Let's do it again. And then it starts to do it automatically. And when you start to do that, here's what happens. It has a global effect. It has a processional effect on all negative words, all negative thoughts. That's how you condition yourself to default to a better way. Listen, I've had some horrible things happen to me in my life. Horrible things happen to me. I got a phone call one day that I was in Florida, that my house had been broken to, and these jerks stole my safe. I had a 5 foot by 3 by 3 gun safe that was bolted to the ground. My family photos, a ton of cash was in there. My expensive bass guitars, my everything, anything, my watch collection, everything that I valued material was in that safe, and it's gone. And don't get me wrong, I was furious, I was hurt, all of that stuff for about 20 seconds. And then something came over me. It washed over me, and all of a sudden I was okay. Now don't get me wrong, I didn't like that I lost my stuff, and I still don't. But I was able to, in that moment, calm down and tell the police something that eventually I got some of my stuff back. I didn't get all of it back. The reason I'm telling that to you is this. You want that kind of default. This is how to change that negative thought inside yourself. Find it, interrupt that pattern. Find it and feel it. Interrupt that pattern, smile, or do something that makes you feel good and celebrate. Do that over and over again. Find something and do the same thing over and over again for the next 10 days, maybe once or 2 times a day. And then you judge by results, what you'll start to do. There's one last thing that I want you to do. I give you the mirror exercise. Go to the mirror every single day. Look yourself in the eyes and go, you're amazing. I love you. Start that kind of conversation inside your head. Pat yourself on the back. You will mitigate the worst and you'll bring up the best. Remember, life is always exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune favors the bold, baby. And so the trick to life is to boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I love you. Somebody had to tell you. It might as well have been me. I'll see you at the top. I'm out.